helping each other out, which is what makes the touch designer community so nice. Just like the V4 community, it's not much about competition. It's about helping each other because we're so rare that it doesn't make sense to fight for the same sausage, to say it in German. Okay, and now I'm very happy to say that we've been invited by RKH Studio and by Andrea, who I had the pleasure to meet on a workshop a year ago. And there was the idea we should do something like that in Turin, and we have a very nice studio.
Thank you.
And only a year later, we're here in this very nice studio, hosted by RKH Studio, supported by Gamma Music Institute. And as it is good tradition that who invites us also has to introduce their studio and their work. So yeah. I was also bullying Andrea into, please do a talk at this roundtable and tell us a bit about RKH Studio and how TouchDesigner plays into it and what you enjoy doing with it.
Yeah.
And that is about to happen. And when Andrea is finished, we have this social break, as we call it, where you're really very invited to socialize. Yeah, socialize with each other. But now, without further ado, or maybe I should say that after this break, we're gonna hear from Markus Heckmann, who's gonna be in here via Zoom, and he's gonna talk a bit about the new pop operators. And again, you're very welcome to ask him all the questions. Just because we also stream this, it will then be kind of important that whoever has a question gets a microphone, so that the people in the stream who are with us, with their hearts and minds, also understand what we're talking about. And then, last but not least, Nima Gaziani, world famous for his Touch Designer Beginners class, is also going to talk a bit about the work that's outside of the Touch Designer Beginners class. And yeah, this has been long overdue, so I'm really happy to have all these exciting presentations here together. Thank you, Andrea, again for making this happen. Thank you, now we're very curious to hear. And yeah, like we said before, if you feel at some point uncomfortable with the English, Nima is
thank you.
He's there and he's going to throw the right words at you, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Lori, cambia solo le scene. Okay. So. Test. Okay. So, sorry for my English, it's not so good, but thank you so much for coming here. As Stefan said, for me it's very incredible to see a lot of people for this event, because I started with Touch Designer like in 2019, diciamo così. And yeah, and I feel so alone in that period, because I watch some tutorial and I say, oh my God, no one explained very, very well what's happened into this program. And after I know Node Institute and I follow the Nima's tutorial, the Nima's lesson, I say, okay, incredible. Some people know what they do, and yeah, after I follow another workshop in Bali, and I also knew Stefan, and nothing. Now we are here together to share something. Okay, we can start. RKH, what is it? This logo. So this studio was founded in 2012 here in Turin, and we start like a recording studio. We was in 2 people, and over some years we expanded and involved with some experimental and audio-video production studio. We have a lot of collaboration with some companies like Puma, Iveco, Milan, Torino. You can read. So this is our first studio. It's not like this, I know. On the right you can find our recording studio. I'm kidding, but yes, it was very small small place, and we was in 3. This is the second studio. This is me very young. Now it's not like this. And this is my business partner, Jack. And this is the third studio, and it's not the complete studio, because we have a lot of change. and now you can see the video, because now you see only this space, but upstairs and after in the night session we can watch a live. We have a gym inside, as you can see. This is the meeting room, and this is the podcast room, but podcast room, but also audio and video production room. This is the communication room. And upstairs we have another place that we work into the editorial space, because we have also a magazine about cinema. So every year we publish one magazine about cinema, and we work for this also. This is the team session, team video session, animation, and recording. Okay, I don't want to bother about this, and video. So this is us, and can I have an applause for Pietro, please, because okay, thank you so much. It's the child of my business partner. And yeah, okay, what we do, as can I say, video, 2D and 3D animation, audio, communication, and branding and graphic design. I give you some example, and for example, short film. This is one of the greatest passion that we had, and we start with short film. And unfortunately, during the COVID, obviously we don't have the possibilities to shots, to do anything. And this is the reason because I discovered TouchDesigner, because for 2 years it's impossible to do anything about it. And this is pity, but now it's for the next year we would like to return for this. So this is us backstage. Okay, on the left it's funny, but was the last short movie that we did. Okay. We work a lot with sports. So, for example, on the right you can find. I hope no one are in Juventus, but it's okay. Yeah, yeah. But we work. That's okay. And we work for documentaries about sport soccer teams and animation, as can I say before. On the left, you can find a Costa d'Oro spot commercial that we did like 1 year ago. On the right, this is the last animation series that we did. And I don't know, maybe you can find on YouTube. It's impossible? No. Okay, it's hide for some reason. Okay. We did a lot of documentaries all around the world. We visit Los Angeles, Reykjavik, Hong Kong, and this is one of my favorite projects that we did, because me and my business partner travel all around the world, and he sampled the sound, and I make a lot of I make some videos during this period all around the world, and we try to tell to the other guys to how music works all around the world. And yeah. Okay, we also do a lot of music video, and this was a starting point for me, because I started when I was 50 years old, and now I try to move, and I try to change my vision about music video, because as can I say, after the COVID, we have some limits for the space, limit for the set, limit for the lights, limit for production, and I think that with TouchDesigner we do a lot of possibilities to change something. Yeah, it's funny, the backstage sometimes are so funny. Okay. So, okay, about me, I'm a director of photography, and I'm specializing in video production, and I work like a visual director right now. And yeah, I don't like to talk for me. Some of my works on TouchDesigner, yeah, okay. This is a live that we made like 4 days ago in Milan at RKH Studio. And Jack Sapienza, my business partner, and me have this project called Tutto Nulla. And it's an immersive kind of visual experience where experimental electronic music meets in the real-time 3D visual. So we work like in audio reactive, and we work or with projector or with LED wall, and we work with TouchDesigner, obviously. So this is another project that we made with animation team, and it's called Butterfly Effect. I think you can recognize how we did this with some instancing and with 2D animation that Julia wrote some years ago. And also we use this visual for our live session. And this is one of my favorite works that we made, but it's very, very fast. Okay, go. This is another project. Whoops, I don't know. Sorry. I don't know why. Okay, you can watch. Okay, for example, whoops. This is another project. This is another light that we made, for example, at Graphic Days in Torino. And also this we made out with TouchDesigner. And for this project we work with Max MSP plus TouchDesigner. This is another project that we did. Here we work with data mosh effect. I think you know what it is. And we take a lot of analogic pictures that we did all around the world and put into the system. And after some triggers, the image starts to move through some axes. It's very long, yeah. Okay. Another project that we did, one of the last year, was an interactive quiz for Torino. Sorry for the Juventus team. Oh, that's okay. Yes, so...
Nobody's going to be sorry for you.
That's okay. So we developed this interactive quiz for Torino and Batson using TouchDesigner with the joypad of Xbox, and so the fan have some question and have the possibilities to win some tickets, and yeah, this is crazy for the project because I started with an Excel. And I use this Excel just to understand what is the question and what is the answer. And it's like 1 month of work. It's one of the most complex projects that we did. Okay, a lot of notes. Yes, this is another project, and I would like to say thanks to Nima. I don't know, is it okay? Because he helped me a lot for this. So Lavanda Gastrica, it's an event that we have here in RKH, and we developed this cage verse that's an interactive installation built obviously with TouchDesigner, and we explore Nicolas Cage complete filmography. Featuring a custom statics, release years, and a specific filter like Cage as a cop, Cage dies, and Cage goes crazy. And this is an example of, yeah. So you have the possibilities to understand, okay, where Cage have shitty films, and you have the possibilities
Per catturare il più pericoloso degli assassini.
Yeah, I don't know if you like Nicolas Cage, but was okay. Also, this was very, very big project. Yeah, I'm going crazy. But yeah, it was funny. Okay. Yes, but for the code, this is another simple project for the. It's always for Lavanda Gastrica. We use a LiDAR to. It was here. Yeah, upstairs. And yes, the image is a porno image, I know. So maybe for YouTube it's not so good. Okay, and we use also for the music video, and as can I say, it's a kind of evolution that I try to discover. So for example, here we use this keynote sensor combined with a rear projection to create this kind of dynamic visual on the background, and I generate some particles that emerge from their silhouette. So this is the example that this is the result. Yeah. Okay, sorry for the image. Yeah, and also for this music video, I like to use the simple effect like, I don't remember what it is. Something. Okay. Here. Always use data mesh, VHS, and VOD tracking. Nothing, sorry, but I'm very short, but I hope you like it. And I would like to say again, thank you so much for coming here, and I hope you can enjoy tomorrow also, and nothing.
Questions from the audience?
Okay.
Yeah, Andrea, that was quite a speed run.
Yeah, I'm not so good for...
Live compressed in 15 minutes.
I know.
Well, I kind of wonder, you have like all this background in cinematography, and you do these, very animated things, so a lot of work goes into it. It's very scripted, and so where do you see the most advantages of TouchDesigner in your workflow? What is kind of the biggest challenge to integrate it into? I mean, we all know it's good to integrate in live things, but you said you also want to kind of feed it back into the video production work. So what's the challenges there?
We have a lot of challenge with TouchDesigner. So, for example, now the main project that we have for with Jack, the most problem that we have, it's like, okay, I have a lot of data through Max8, MaxMCP, and I would like to manage this sort of data and create something, but something that it's not, how can I say, something not easy that you watch on YouTube. So, for example, you have a lot of tutorial about particles, about this. So now I would like to learn more about coding, like GLSL, for example, but it's very hard if you start now. I know.
It's not only only finding the tutorial is not
doing
it, right?
It's very difficult to find. But yeah, for this, I would like to discover more about this. And for the set now, we try to connect the lights into TouchDesigner. Like, for example, we have a music video, so I would like to have the artists that move into the scene, so the lights follow the artist. So for the production, video production, I would like to discover more about light design, no? So I think this is the point for me in this moment of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. So light being the kind of then the element that brings the real-time capabilities to the shoot, and
this.
Are there questions? Do you have any questions for Andrea?
Maybe in Italian.
No, because we have our beloved streaming audience.
Do you use Ableton?
No, me no, but my business partner, yes, he uses Ableton and Max8. So, for example, for this live, we use Ableton for some kind of sound and Max8 for kind of trigger. So we use both, yeah. But here I did only the visual. My business partner managed the sound part.
They have a lot of connections that are really cool.
Yes, it's terrible. Every time it's very, very terrible because you have always a problem. We use the OSC protocol to connect each other, but yeah, please.
Yeah, OSC is supposed to work out of the box, and every time you try it, you find yourself trying all kinds of things, and then suddenly it works.
Yeah, I have always problem.
The effect.
Deadmau5 has a really nice plugin that connects Ableton and TouchDesigner.
Hmm?
He says that Deadmau5 has a really nice.
Oh, yeah.
Did he publish that?
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Pretty cheap, $20.
$20. Steal. Well, yeah, as we are name dropping, I also thought that I saw that Heckman has a pretty long introduction to GLSL on his Patreon.
Yeah.
Knowing Lake, I think that is probably a good path.
Just start. I would like to start to watch and after decide if die or not.
Are there any other questions for Andrea?
What's your favorite operator?
My favorite operator, POP is now in the future.
The whole family.
Yeah, but operator, I don't know. I need to think about it. I don't know for a moment.
Okay.
After I tell you.
And can I watch again that animation that you skipped?
Yeah.
The first animation that you were showing that you used this one.
This
Yes.
one. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Oh, fuck you.
It's okay like this.
Okay. And we recorded with very old television. So I reproduced in VHS television CRT. And I changed the scene through the MIDI, so it's not an editing, it's a live editing. It's very old, but I like the effects.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting that now this VHS stuff is so popular, because when I started VJing, that's what we had.
Yeah?
We were quite happy to get away, to have a few more pixels and
Yeah.
some more reliability on the colors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And not like
This
everything
period-
goes crazy when you do actual white or something
Yeah,
like that.
I know. I had this period of my life that I want to use only VHS, only this television. Now I stopped, but I have a lot of this in the garage. But yeah,
Me too.
I know. I imagine. Okay.
Well, if there's no further question, if so, then please let us know. Otherwise, also no problem, because then we can go to the bar, get a drink, and
Yeah.
you can ask Andrea in Italian everything you want.
Yeah.
Without anybody watching. And for the people in the stream, we will be back at 7:30 with Markus
Yeah.
Heckmann. And also I want to give a big shout out to Wieland, if you're watching this. It's not the same without you. And also I have to give credit to Karim, aka Kimo Slice, who've provided us with some nice license-free audio that you in the stream are going to be able to listen to during the break while we indulge in nice drinks and cigarettes. And then we'll be back soon. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Andrea.
Thank
again.
you so much, guys.
So, and am I the only one who doesn't know where the bar is?
What?
Am I the only one who doesn't know where the bar is?
Where is upstairs?
It's upstairs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check it out.
Prova. Pure io sto uscendo di lì. No, perché a me arriva. A me arriva qua e arriva anche lì. Cioè, se io stoppo la musica. Lì alla Scarlett arriva, vedi? Ok. Però non arriva qua.
Però prima andava. Prima andava. Aspetta, no.
Prova. Prova. Ah, adesso va lì. Adesso li va. No, è giusto. Sì, dobbiamo.
Guarda.
Sì, però dobbiamo sentire lui adesso. Se ci vuole.
Lui non ci arriva il suo audio.
Can you hear us? Hello Markus.
Ok, sta dicendo qualcosa.
O tu ti puoi collegare quella videochiamata al tuo telefono, controlliamo.
We can't hear you.
Ok, lui quindi noi non stiamo, praticamente non riceviamo il suo audio.
Sì.
Chiedo a lui,
Ok, quindi lui ci sente ma lui non, noi non stiamo.
Noi non stiamo sentendo lui. Quindi io lì posso arrivare fino a un certo punto.
Lui ci ascoltava un po', dice.
Lui ci ascoltava, quindi lui il nostro audio ce l'ha. Ok, ci sta scrivendo I can hear you very well. Ok.
Ok, but we can't hear you. Configurazione input 1.
Detto Gare che in live si sente.
Sì. È normale. Bassiamo magari. Aspetta.
faccio io da qua. Ora così ci sente.
Ora entra. Vediamo. Infatti ti dicevo,
sento
guarda
live,
l'uscita
Però si sentono in live.
della stage. Ora mi sono.
Teniamolo basso.
Ora sento, confermo.
Allora, qua
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can
Okay.
hear you. You can hear me?
Nice. Yes, loud and clear.
Perfect. Excellent.
All right, and we are back. We are back from our beloved social break, and I see you initialize the initial message, get to know each other. I'm very happy about that. And apropos getting to know each other, I'm also super happy to introduce our next speaker. Unfortunately, he cannot be here in person, but it's almost nostalgic to have Markus Heckmann on a Zoom because he only recently moved to Berlin before he was in Toronto. So whenever we had him at the roundtable, and we had him quite often, it was always through a Zoom call. So it's a bit of a flashback. And Markus, can you hear us?
Yep. Hello.
There he is. May I introduce Markus Heckmann, Technical Director with Derivative and beloved guest at the TouchDesigner Roundtable. And today he's going to talk to us about the brand new operator family that we're all drooling our microphones full. Markus, what can you tell us?
Well, we're ever getting closer to a release, and I thought maybe it's a good chance to introduce POPs to everybody again, or show a little bit of progress, what we've been working on in the last little bit, and where we're going with this. Now, POPs in general, it's brand new operator family in TouchDesigner that runs completely on the GPU, and it lets you essentially create or modify 3D data, and then you render it out again via RenderTop. So you even can skip the instancing step with this because the instancing can now be done in operators. It's very nice. Like instancing was always this endpoint. You had the geometry component at the end, did your instancing, and then that was it. But now you actually instance in the operator itself and then still can manipulate or modify the result. Maybe I'll share my screen here. Let's see. Okay, share. And I hope you can see this. The way that I got familiar with POPs or familiarized myself and got used to it is via particles mostly, because it's for me is something that I can very well relate to, worked a little bit in tops with it, and now try to rebuild things that I was able to do in pops before and tops before with the pop operators. And one of the examples years ago, I made this video for dissolving Napoleon. Now I have the same setup here as dissolving a banana. And the nice thing is that it's a much more much simpler approach to this because you're dealing with geometry data and you're able to add attributes to it or modify attributes on the geometry, making this a much simpler approach, not so abstract. Like before, you had to always think of what the pixels might mean. Had its benefits as well, I would say, because you could kind of try, okay, what does a blur top do to my particles, for example? But in this new setup, you're essentially always dealing with points or geometry in general, in my case here with points. And you can build these particle loops. It's kind of like feedback loops. So this is, for example, the particle operator where you can define basic attributes for how the particle should behave, like life expectancy. You don't need to deal with this. Previously in tops, you always had to build strange networks with mat tops and do some math. All of this is taken care for you now, but it's still a loop. So it's a feedback loop. It starts with the particle pop and ends with, for example, a null pop, which then feeds back to the particle pop again. And in between what you do, you adjust usually velocity or color or anything else, but at the same time, always able to look at attributes of your points in, for example, position or color or velocity. So in this simple example here, I'm using a noise pop. It's not necessarily how you should be doing this actually, but in this case, it works much better for me. I'm using a noise pop to directly change the position of the points or modify the position of the points. it looks very much like the noise top itself, but you tell it, okay, what's my lookup attribute? Like, where do I fetch the noise from in the noise top? Just as a reminder, the noise top had two inputs. First one was mostly for resolution or for the compositing, and second input was the noise coordinate map. So where in the noise field do I fetch my noise values? This is now a single input, and you specify what the attribute is that should be looking into the noise field. So in this example, I'm using the position of the points itself, but you could be using any attribute now to do that. And yeah, similarly, another nice thing in POPs now is that you can trail them. So here I have a little particle network, which is just points moving, and then a lookup POP where looking at the age of the particle or taking the age of the particle as a lookup into a curve. And this curve then adjusts the takes the noise basically and adjusts the position for it. And after the particle loop, adding a trail where I can create these nice trails now from it. The trail working in a way that you can say, you give it a trail length, in this case 10 seconds, and it creates the geometry for you, and this whole thing rendered with the line pop, then with the line material as well. So there's a lot of research, or like we're trying to figure out also how we can build specific particle pops that will be eventually become proper operators. Currently, those are still basically like networks that we build. For example, bounds. How can you do bounds with it? Can have here a hit behavior. For example, if I specify a sphere of a certain radius, I can say that all the particles should die when they hit the sphere, or I can say that they should start dying, which means once they hit the sphere, then they should have another second before they die off, or they should stick, basically, which is the same as dying, just that the particles stick there. Now, for this, I'm using a field pop giving you a couple other attributes, and here the output attribute is weight. In my case, I'm simply checking if it's inside the field, then the weight will be 1. If it's outside, it will be 0. So then in a node called math mix, where I can do simple math, I can check, okay, if my weight is smaller than 1, it should be dying off. And these can get quite complex. In my case here, it's fairly simple now, but sometimes they can get a little bit longer. We have these sequential blocks, parameter blocks, where you can add more and more math type expressions, but built out of where you're comparing essentially attributes to each other. And this is always per point. So for every point in my simulation, I'm checking, okay, is the weight smaller than 1? Then start dying. If it is dying, then it's 0, or else it should be start dying. So I can do little if loops or if conditions here as well. This reads a little bit difficult. There is an argument that some people say, well, maybe it's easier to do this in GLSL, but if you don't want to type code, then this is certainly a way to actually build up your code essentially. If you middle mouse click onto these math mix nodes, that's a little helper here. There's also in the bottom, you can see that we're simplifying these expressions that you're typing in here or that you're building here, and kind of try to make it into readable code. So start dying is 0. If is dying, else it's start dying again. Stuff like that. And let me set that to none. it becomes interesting with forces, for example. So this is a force operator or base component for force, which uses a GLSL pop. In the GLSL pop, I built a few different forces for density, radial, axial, and vortex forces, and spiral. And the idea here, for example, could be that either you define some forces by these sequential parameter blocks, so you can add more forces, as many as your computer can do, or I can take a second input where I have a bunch of points. Here I have 5 points, and I can noise them up, so I can move the forces around a little bit. And then this component here uses the attributes from my second input to essentially pick the definition for those forces. So it's a different way, because if I try to do this here, I cannot easily, well, I would have to do a bunch of exports or whatever to control the forces here. But when I have them defined as point attributes here, position, force size, force type, force amount, force steer, now I can use more operators to modify those attributes before they're being used as force fields. And as a last option, which is nice too, which gives lots of possibilities as well, is that you could also use the attributes actually that come with the particles. So if I have particles that define their own force, positions, or all the attributes necessary to define a force, then each particle could have its own force, essentially. So every particle could have a totally different force that it looks at, and it's not, affected by the other particle forces. It's not an expensive calculation. So you could have as many forces as you have particles here. It's not a problem in this approach. Yeah, and you see how this works. Basically, the like you have all, in the end of the particle loop, you have all of your points with the colors and affected as described in the particle loop. And this can be just put into a geo component to be rendered. Also new is that we finally added to the noise pop curling, like a curling calculation, basically, so that you can do these nice curling noises. But additionally to this, we can also adjust parameters currently with a point iter expression, meaning that for every input point, you can adjust the parameters here to have the value of an attribute that comes with the particle. And that makes it possible that you don't have this one uniform curl noise, but the period of the curl noise in this case can change based on the particle itself. Again, giving you a great source of variation, or great amount of variation that can be done with this. This probably is a little bit hard to see, probably not coming through the stream very well, but maybe it gives you a little bit of an idea. Another thing that's interesting is I just tried recently to do kind of a follow for particles to follow a curve. Something that was not easily doable before. Now I have my particle simulation loop here and a follow line strip component that I built without any GLSL in there, and I'll show you in a moment how that works. And it takes 2 inputs. One is my particles, the other one is a so-called line strip, so a number of points connected with each other. And the particles will be attracted by every point on this line strip, on this circle. And then afterwards, it's looking at the point and then looking at its neighbor and applying a force that directs the particle towards the neighbor. And for that, we have some nice operators as well. We have this operator that's very useful called line metrics. So for each point on this line strip, you can create attributes that describe the distance to the next point and the direction to the next point. And those two attributes I can use to then check when a particle is on the line or close to the line, where to move next. And this is done in these mass mix pops again. Also, the neighbor pop comes into play here. The neighbor pop is useful. You basically tell it to get like one neighbor, the closest point from the first input to the second input, and with a distance. So only if it's 2 units away from the second input, then check for neighbors there. And it's outputting a distance attribute so that I know how far it is from the next point of the second input. Equally, what's nice, I can use the attributes from my second input and add them to the points of my first input. So for every point, when it gets close to a point of the second input, I'm now copying the direction and distance of this line strip over to the point. And this is how I can calculate where it should be going next. And the whole thing animating looks like this. Again, I'm not sure. This is probably a little bit hard to see, but you can see maybe a little bit that they're moving in a circle. And the circle, again, is something that is modified by a noise for the points, but also you can do things like actually change the attraction force of each point, again, by a noise pop. So I say, take the position, but output this into a new attribute called point attract, which is then used inside my component to say how strongly all these particles are attracted by each of these points. So again, it becomes a really varying result, interesting varying result. It's the same again. You could also add those attributes actually to every point of the particle system itself, so that every point now has a randomized value of some sort, how it should be attracted by this. For the line metrics, having things like previous or next distance, direction and distance, obviously I can switch this, and I can use that to switch direction, for example. So maybe we can see that here a little bit. Let's see if I inverse the direction, now all the points are going in the other way. So it's a fairly simple network actually that makes that happen. It's literally getting the attributes for the line metrics, finding a neighbor, the closest point, and then a little bit of math mix to write the formulas that make the whole thing happen. I found this really the way for me to understand how to work with attributes. It is a bit a paradigm shift where with operators beforehand, you had a much more, I would say you had a much more playful approach, while now you have to think a little bit more analytical of what you want the points to do and how you want to use the attributes and for what. But quickly, once you can adjust your brain, so to speak, to work in this way, you can create really interesting things. I would like to point you also to the workshop that Tim Gerritsen just did at the Node Institute. That comes with a really nice example file of all kinds of experiments that the Gerritsens have done. Maybe I should quickly show you. Let me just open that up. Sorry, I didn't open that up before. Where is it? I don't know. 1 second. I can find it. Never mind. Because the other thing I wanted to show you as well, and this is a little bit why my room is changing color here. Pops are not just useful for these geometric things, but because of the attributes and how it works with attributes, it's also good for driving certain devices like lighting fixtures. So something that we haven't yet published to in the alpha group is the DMX group of pops. We have 3 pops in total for this. It's a DMX fixture pop, a DMX out pop, and a DMX map pop. So starting with the DMX fixture pop, this is where you define the fixture itself. So just imagine that previously you would have such a fixture. That's what I have here on my side. That's why the colors are changing. And this lamp is a tilting LED bar with 8 LEDs. And I'm driving it in its advanced mode, which has 105 channels. So you have tilt, fine tilt, tilt speeds, a bunch of controls. And then for every LED, you have a red coarse, red fine, green, blue, white, and dimmers. And that makes these whole 105 channels. Now, doing this with chops previously was a little bit of a pain. So we thought of a system of how to make this more simple. And the idea there is that you can describe this lamp with 2 different operators. One, you have points that describe every LED itself. And then you have another point which describes the fixture itself. So kind of global control of the fixture, like tilt, and the per point LED control, which is the 8 points that are described here. And all the values of this is given by attributes. So I have a tilt attribute here. If I move my, not sure how much you can see this, but you should be able to see a little bit that I'm moving the light around. Tilt speed, etc. A lookup for color. That's why how the colors are moving now. And this all goes into the DMX fixture pop, in which I now describe my channel mapping. And this is now the nice part, which makes it much more simple than before. I can create a DMX channel called tilt, tell it that it should take its attribute from a primitive, specify the attribute name. So as defined here, tilt. And then I can also tell it, what's the value resolution? Is this 8-bit, 16-bit, 24, or 32? And if the value is normalized. So I don't have to take care anymore of the single DMX channels. I can just have one attribute, which is the tilt attribute, normalized between 0 and 1, with which I now can control the tilt. This works all the way through. I've got tilt speed, controls, color, patterns, whatever. And then maybe if I scroll further down, I've got about 16 sequential parameter blocks here. I have my dimmer and my RGBW, so red, green, blue, and white channels for the LEDs. And the difference now is that my dimmer and my RGBW, because it's for every LED, those are point attributes. So I grab them from the point attributes that I have defined over here and looking up the color into it. And then those are sequentially added. So where you did a shuffle chop before to take color, organize it all into one channel, this is now done just by specifying this as a point attribute. And I have the opportunity also to merge these blocks together. Like I would have the dimmer first, then RGBW, then the dimmer again, then RGBW again. Always 16 bits. I don't have to take care of anything. This is 16 blocks only and defining 105 channels in total. So yeah, much simplified. With the DMX stat, we can now build little interfaces to the whole thing so that you have a view of what's going out, what DMX channels are going out. And this being a fixture pop, we thought, well, you can also just copy this fixture multiple times, then look up the right parameters for it to control multiple fixtures. So if I duplicate this, now you can see I'm now having here 217 channels or something like this that are being actively driven. And basically, I'm now driving with one single fixture pop. I'm now driving, or I'm able to now drive 2 of these same fixtures. There's a bit of control for this here as well, how they are being layouted in the DMX channel map. I can use a routing table to give them, for example, separate IPs, or I can auto layout the whole thing, which means that also now I can add channel gaps in here. You can follow this a little bit on this display, like how close they basically are to each other, those fixtures in the DMX universe or not. Also, there's quantizing so that if a fixture doesn't fit into a universe, it's going to be put onto the next universe. But you have a lot of options there, how you want to deal with the whole thing. And the DMX out pop is basically the DMX out chop. What was that previous? Just that you now have a sequential parameter here where you can select all your fixtures that you have in your system. And then again, with the, send it to a certain network address or use a routing table, which would allow you to, again, address fixtures to certain universes or IP addresses. Anyway, you would want to work with this. This definition as well can then be used to do previews of the whole thing. So this is something I'm still working on. The end goal should be here that we can use these GDTF files that define a fixture or that describe a fixture, load them in, and that should be able to actually create the fixture pop for you and hopefully also create a proper preview of the whole thing for you, because a lot of the GDTF files have the geometry and describe the geometry positions for you. But this is a little bit still like we settled on the DMX operators itself and now have to build the infrastructure to make it all work. And currently I'm focusing on the UI here, which allows you to kind of browse through your DMX output, go to certain fixtures or look at different IP addresses that you're sending things to, networks, subnets, and universes, etc. And then what I'm working on is actually that you see what part is which fixture so that you have a clear idea what is what and can get quickly to those fixture pops itself. So there's still a lot of work on the infrastructure, but the basic operators we're pretty happy with, and I think they're almost feature complete for that as well. Yeah, and it's 8, so I'm basically at a half an hour. That's kind of my little overview of new things. Oh, I might say that so currently we are in an alpha phase still of POPs, which means it's not an experimental build yet, that's to come, but if you want to try it out, the only requirement currently is that you have a paid license. So it's either a commercial license or an educational or pro license, and write an email to licensing@derivative.ca, mention your username, and you should be getting access to the alpha build. The alpha build then comes together with a collection of files, example files out of the community that has been very active already in creating examples for it, where you can study how things work. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much, Markus.
Any questions?
I'm very happy that you showed now this DMX variation, because to be honest, after watching the workshop with Tim, I felt a bit like, oh, this is gonna get complicated because he had all these like huge mass mix things with all kind of formulas, and you could clearly tell, well, he's able to do that because he has all the mathematic in his head, because he's the kind of guy and he has all this GLSL knowledge. I mean, of course, we kind of came to the conclusion that in this math mix you do things that you would have done in compute shaders, but you do them, of course, much more simple than writing the sheer code, but you still have to have all this understanding. Would you still say that there's a promise for the less mathematical-minded users that POPs are going to make a lot of things possible that have been complicated? I mean, we've all struggled to wrap our head around instancing and these kind of workarounds.
I think so, yeah. Especially like looking back, for example, for this follow line strip example here, there are operators here that really help with that, like having to calculate the distance to the next point or the direction of the next point. Those kind of things are being taken, are being put into operators. Similar, like finding the closest point in another point set. Those are all. I find this is a good example where we create operators that make a lot of the math more simple. And then, of course, you still have to do a little bit of math, which cannot be like the math that is not universal to everything, that is very much more particular to what you want to do. That is still something you will have to do. But a lot of the operators are those little helper operators that help you with math, essentially, that would be hard otherwise to write.
So the math is not going to go away.
The math is not going to go away in this case.
Okay.
No, unfortunately not.
I thought with the DMX fixture thing, wouldn't it be cool? Because I mean, I think there is some kind of standard, or probably different standards, how you can download fixtures. Would it be thinkable that you can just tap into that and just download the definition, throw it into that top, and it falls out correctly?
That's the hope here. That so that's the GDTF files are a zip package. Inside the zip is an XML definition file. And we believe that with how we are building the DMX fixture pop, that we actually can retrieve that information from the GDTF files, from those XML definitions. And from there, then we can look further into as I said, like doing the preview and stuff like that. But we're hoping that we're able to have an importer, which is will be just a Python script to read those in, so that we can get your DMX fixtures fairly easily loaded and then controlled.
Sweet. And allow me a last question before I open the questions to the floor. Maybe it's not a question, about what is like the newest gossip that goes around the derivative headquarters that you can share with us just here in this little round?
I mean, we have been heavily focused on POPs. Basically, there's other things in the pipeline that are also have been publicly communicated, which is our file system rework, and there's a lot of connected other issues or other enhancements that come with that. Those are large undertakings that take up a lot of our current focus. Otherwise, we just turned 25. If that's a gossip thing. Yesterday was Derivative's 25th birthday. So
wow, I think that's worth an applause. Happy birthday!
Yeah,
it feels quite young, actually.
Yeah, I mean, 25 years
compared
right?
to us. Okay. Are there any questions that you have for Markus?
Hi, Markus. Name's Ruben over here. And one question is, how much can be published to since I'm part of the TDPop Alpha already, how much can be published in terms of like social media, YouTube, and other stuff related to what is going on in the development as of right now?
We generally say that Pop Alpha this alpha version is not good to be used in commercial projects yet. We cannot give any guarantees or anything. It shouldn't be used in commercial projects, but if you want to publish what you're making with it, videos, Instagram posts, whatever, go ahead and let us know, because yes, we are collecting that and we're promoting that as well.
Yeah, I've heard about, like, it's possible to technically record a movie file out and use that, but not directly the, the pop build. But like just on educational purpose, because like Interactive and Immersive HQ have already published like a video related to pops a while ago. So like how much can other users that, are not as close to derivative, I guess,
You can do that. Like you can make little, if you want to show off your work in videos, that's totally fine. We just asked for it not to be commercial work.
Okay, so like if it was like a simple screen recording showcasing a simple system, like a simple network, it can still be published off of YouTube, Instagram, other platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem.
Okay, thank you a lot.
Did you not have a question for Markus?
Hi, Markus. I'm Mariana. And I was asking before to Stefan if you have any insights on when POPs will be publicly released as a full version.
I don't have a date. No, sorry. As soon as possible.
That's a bit evil witch laughter, Markus.
I'm so sorry. I wish we could give you a proper date for this, but we don't have a date yet.
Yeah, it's going to be within this century.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
That's something we can work with.
We have to. Yeah, no, we're getting close. I would say we're getting close. It's a really, it's so stable that I was working away with the DMX stuff, and then my DMX build, which is a separate branch, had a bug in it, which didn't allow, or when I was saving, clicking, like hitting save, it would crash. But it was so stable that I didn't feel like I need to save. So I did a lot of work and then saved and then crashed, and it didn't leave a file behind. So yeah, it's basically sometimes still in a little bit of a, funny thing, but it feels super stable. I think we're pretty close.
Hi there, it's Carlo. Thank you for sharing all of this. Question on the DMX. So let's suppose, maybe it's a naive question, so I'm just going with it. So suppose I have a GDTF array of files, right? Suppose I'm taking over a location, right? So is the process also designed to be reversed? So I'm designing lighting for a concert, right? So I knew from the venue the fixture used, so I can get the you know where I'm going, right? It's about taking over a location. So the venue already has its DMX map, the pre-allocated addresses, right? And you as a lighting designer are stepping in, and you can save a hell lot of time to the venue if I can reverse the project. It's like taking over the whole location. Is this meant to be implemented, or is just too much?
I have not yet. This is this stage. What are they called? It's a different file format, right? It's a stage description file or something like this.
Yeah, because basically into professional lighting softwares, you do have the same stuff, so to say, right? So the same pieces of the puzzle. So you do have the lamp files, and then with different tools and softwares and others and whatnot, you design your show and then you play it out, right? So this is really expensive in terms of not money, but just time, right? So if you are into a music show or into a venue, you get like zero time for doing that. It's like 1 hour of just quick testing and then off you go, right? So I was wondering if the last part of the process you just described is also meant to be reversed. So just reading the location.
Yeah, so this would be the last step in the process if we hopefully get there to be able not just to use GDTF files, but full stage description files. Now, again, yeah, sorry, I forget the name of those files, but this would be amazing if that could work. I think that's a long way, though, for us to go to get there. It might be that the community is quicker with that to develop it. Theoretically, again, the hope is that we would be able to describe it all, because in the end, every DMX fixture now not just has the attributes that describe the light, but you also have position, orientation. All of these things can now be described in a fixture, in a DMX fixture. So theoretically it should be possible, but I think it's going to be a bit of a development process to get there. That's pretty complex stuff. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering.
Simple questions are the best questions.
Hi, Markus. I have a simple question. I saw the forces, the example about the forces, and I saw at a certain point you were showing that you can input on the second input some point driven by some noise, and it was reminding me particle SOP versus particle GPU, because I love particle SOP because you can put multiple metaballs, have different forces interacting together, and in particle GPU, even if you try to dive inside in the network, you find the possibility to add one force.
Yeah.
If you don't know GLSL, you cannot add a second one, I guess. And so my question was more about these points, do they have a radius? Or they are just points?
Yeah, for this implementation that we built here, the positional force network, every point has a size. So, and currently in the shader here, every point has like a very simple metaball kind of equation for its fall off, for the force fall off from it. And yes, it tries to mimic the particle SOP in that sense, because every point here has its attribute for size, which is basically the radius of a sphere or of a metaball.
Okay,
of a simple metaball. Yeah.
I missed the point size. I couldn't see the.
Yeah, it's point position, force size, currently force type, the amount and the direction if it applies to the force.
Very promising, very, very beautiful. So at the end, we're going to use a lot of trail pop and polygonize.
Exactly.
Why do they change the name from trace SOP to polygonize? Is there a reason?
There you're going into, I mean, that's often large discussions why things are called what. And I think that's then the more proper technical term for what it actually does. Yeah, that's probably, I didn't mention that, but this is also something. All of the tops now, like if I take a noise and I make it a texture 3D, because there's an example in the pops where, and also what Josef Pelz is doing with his T3D, this whole class of operators, taking essentially 3D textures and describing shapes in there. So you can do this with the polygonize pop as well. But also nice, and I should have mentioned that, is that if you add an HSV adjust now to a texture 3D, this actually works. All of the operators in tops now support 3D textures, which was impossible before. So you can work now with these Josef Pelz's T3D approach, but also see that you can now control 3D textures. You can modify 3D textures after the fact as well with operators.
Beautiful.
That's really cool. It was just last week that I tried like lots of operators on Texture 3D, and then was very sad that they didn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So this is the step in the next direction there as well. Yeah, it's also tops stay extremely important for a lot of the processing of data or creating normal maps or things like that. I think also Tim had really good examples in the workshop for the Node Institute on how to use tops in conjunction with pops.
And something like point files but they would naturally go to pops and would kind of not necessarily live in the top world anymore.
Correct. Yes, you load point files, point clouds. You load in via the point cloud point file in pop. Should also mention that we have Gaussian splatting now working in pops, which has been a hot topic recently. So we have something working there, and yeah.
But you don't take into account sRGB versus linear right now. Sorry. But point file in pop doesn't take into account sRGB versus linear yet, because I've tested that and I was given a different solution for that uses GLSL pop.
That's correct. Yeah, there is still, I think there was a discussion with Vincent on the forum on that, right?
Yes, that was me.
Okay, perfect. Yes. So yeah, exactly. You're going to find things that haven't been implemented yet, but they're on the list.
Nice. Speaking of the things on the forum, what about clearing up the allocated memory on pops? Because from my understanding right now, like, you know, it allocates memory, but then if you removed a lot of stuff, it doesn't like recognize that yet. And you have to kind of force it with a script from my understanding.
I would have to look that up. I'm not sure where we're with that. I cannot give you a proper answer there. Yeah.
Okay, but it's in the development.
That would be best to follow the forum and see what especially Vincent and Guillaume are saying about that.
Yeah. Okay, so just keep looking out on the forum and I'll find the answer there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
Thank you a lot.
Any further questions for Markus? Then Markus, thank you so much for joining us, for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, and thanks to Stefan, Node Institute, everybody for organizing this, and greetings from the office. And yeah, looking forward to next time.
Thank you very much, Markus. And we are going to enjoy a social break now, and then we're going to be back at 8:30 with Nima's presentation. Thank you. All right. We are coming back from the social break, and everybody on the stream who noticed that we're late, it's because there was huge amounts of focaccia being thrown at us, and it took time to decimate that. But now I would like to lure in the people from the buffet back to the proceedings. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for the great food. Whoever provided it was helpful. And the next speaker is Nima Gaziani, interaction designer and educator. And I still remember how we met when you, I don't know, probably Isabel introduced us and said, oh, you should visit Stefan. And then Nima came by our place, and I was just planning for the beginner's course, and we had started with a bit of touch designer courses, and I was mainly all teaching myself, and realizing that organizing that and earning some money and teaching these courses all at the same time is not going to work out. And then comes Nima and says, yeah, well, I could do that.
Yeah, and I was very worried at the beginning, because for me the Node Institute was like, wow, Elsa, I'm going to the Node Institute. I was sweating in the metro, because I was thinking it was very exceptional. Sorry, I sit because I cannot adjust the microphone.
Then it was just me, and we had a very good talk, and the rest is history. And since then, Nima is teaching our beginner's course, and the people are raving reviews. And yeah, we also had other opportunities to work together. So bottom line is I'm very happy that Nima is here. Yeah. And he could do the talk in Italian, but he won't, because I won't understand. So Nima, thank you for coming, and thank you for being our beginner course guru for all these years now.
Guru.
And
we
no
will
further
start
comments
again
from me.
Another beginner course this summer, April, as we are at the Node Institute event. Yeah, end of April we'll start again. And we might, I don't know, it depends on when they release the official version of the POPs, but I don't think they will release it before the next course. But in case they release it, we're gonna have one module at least about POPs. I mean, I think that POPs are pretty much ready, but you cannot release them on if you're not sure 100% that they will work. Because imagine if they don't work on a commercial venue, I don't know, like in Las Vegas, you're gonna have problems. Okay, so today I prepared a very short presentation. We talked about it with Stefan a few weeks ago. As I already did a presentation in Berlin about myself, showing all the, because I was very scared, I didn't know what people would like to see when I was in Berlin. And there were people like, you know, Markus Heckmann or Tim and Roy and other beautiful Paqueta is always there. So you're always like, oh shit, I have to prepare something very cool. So as I worked a lot in Italy, I had the opportunity to work with a lot of brands and fashion brands and design brands. So I brought in Berlin a lot of presentation with branding, blah, 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 da, 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 things like, look, Versace, or, you know, things like, because I was thinking it was you know, the way to go. It worked somehow, and then in the night after we had the pub night all together, we were in the pub after the event drinking a lot. Then I found myself with Mautik at 4 a.m. in a kebab place, both extremely drunk, and Elsa is testimonial. And he was telling me, where was the poetry? Where was the poetry in your presentation? Because there was no poetry in my presentation. So today I tried to adjust it with, I added like just 2 projects from my student period. So you will see 2 projects from when I was a student. And then I show 1 project about light control. So I hope there will be a little bit more poetry and less brand in the presentation. So I started in 2008 in Naba. Actually, in 2008, I was coming out from a very difficult period because I had a motor accident. So after 6, 7 surgeries, I went to the master course and I participated to this Master in Digital Environment Design. I didn't know about the existence of Arduino. I didn't know about the existence of interaction design because I was just, you know, coming out from a product design course of 3 years. So I was using 3D Studio Max at the time, doing rendering for architects, and I was very depressed somehow because my mom is an architect. So most of the jobs I was getting was coming from, you know, that direction. But then, of course, other architects. But then I discovered Arduino, and so the first period, I was very into Arduino, I have to say. Probably because also we had more lessons about Arduino. So I was tinkering, dismounting electronics, remounting them. So like, for example, this was supposed to be a game. So those are 3 buttons, as you can see, and dismounted it, and we added some fans, and then we created a game with these tubes and the ping pong balls going up and down. And then, yeah, it was a game that wins the guy who doesn't go out of the tube and reaches the next. Tinkering is about, you know, dismounting stuff and remounting. So from the location of the campus, I was going in a vintage market. Yeah, in Italy, there are a lot of vintage markets everywhere. And I was, buying old vintage electronics that were not working anymore and transforming them just for fun and to learn and to show also to, at the time, Massimo Banzi was a professor, and then he became little by little politician or the face of Arduino. But at that time I wanted to show that I was good. I was not the best one in JavaScript, and that's why I switched to TouchDesigner. No, I preferred much more TouchDesigner because you can have 3D animated FBX. At the time, that was very rare. Even V4 couldn't handle animated FBX. So what I did here, I added some pictures of my first project of this Master in Digital Environment Design. That's me, and that's also one of the cover image we have to the web of today. We have, so I'm going to talk about the interactivity with this installation, because it's not only my first installation, but maybe is my favorite one, because by moving the ball, you could move inside the 3D world. So we used, we were also doing a lot of interaction design and understanding how many things you can do with interaction design. So in the project we did, not the one on the top right, the other one on the top right is another project, but the one with the ball is, it's called a Hyperwish, and it was mentored by my professor at the time was Andrew Quinn. That was me, 17 years ago. Probably we still have the same. I don't have the same hair. So Andrew Quinn, at the time, 2008, was already teaching TouchDesigner since a couple of years. And, he presented himself the first lesson saying, hello, I'm Andrew Quinn, I did Matrix 1, Tomb Raider. Matrix 1, huh? yeah, and then you ask which scene, and he did the last part of Matrix 1, Matrix 1, not 2, 3, 1, when Neo enters in Mr. Smith, and Mr. Smith starts to have bubbles on his arms, and then he explodes, and there is Neo inside. That was made by Andrew Quinn. 6 months with animal logic. And also he showed me the storyboards of the main scene of Neo versus Morpheus doing their fight. And the storyboard of Animal Logic is like watching the movie. Like all the pictures are very... So Andrew Quinn I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow you no matter what, always. And in fact, I was doing always TouchDesigner until late, and I was always skipping the Arduino class because the morning after I was dead. I couldn't go to Arduino. So then I became the bad student of Massimo Banzi. He didn't like me anymore because I was doing too much TouchDesigner. So we brought this HyperWish installation, which is basically an installation, interactive installation that collects wish of people. And at the time there was this semantic web. Semantic web was algorithm, like primitive, the beginning of machine learning, or the beginning of deep learning, or AI, or whatever they call it. And this is the beautiful video from, so I'm gonna skip this introduction. Here we go. Maybe I'm gonna talk on top of it because it's just music. So you can enter here and you have this little computer where you put your wish. You have on the right the like word count, and then on the left some data, and in the middle that was my screen, because we were a lot of students, so each of us was doing something different. I was doing this tunnel. This was my first project as a student. So the tunnel, this tunnel that moves, that's Andrew playing with these. So the tunnel is a torus. And clearly the torus is spinning and the camera is fixed inside. And then you have these words that are coming from someone else who made all the thing about collecting the data from this semantic web. Because the idea was people will write the desire and the machine will be able to destructure all the words and then find the unique words and the repeated words, and then the unique words we were publishing it on a semantic web that was giving us back some hyponyms of that word, which are words of the same category. So those words are like represented there, and they are coming basically from a JSON file, so from a text file published online. So I was fetching that JSON every 10 seconds, I guess. So I was updating the words in my visual. And if nobody was touching so beautiful. No, and nobody's touching that was my first project. I still do the same thing, more or less, it's the same visual. So feedback edge, and feedback. And at a certain point, after 10 seconds, nobody touched the ball, you have the screensaver. Because that was the first time I faced the topic about, shit, there is a screensaver. Yes, a standby mode, no? You have to think about all the phases. 2008. And so, yeah, the most interesting part for me, it was this idea that you can transform a light bulb, which is hanging from the ceiling, into a joystick. No? And it was very simple, because the camera, you place it up, you close the exposure of the camera down to 1. So you see only a dark video, but then you see 1 pixel of light, which is this big giant light bulb, and everybody else is dark, like you don't see the people. And so you can do blob tracking in 1 second. And the blob track top was not existing, so we were using Moccolo from one of our professor, Orf Quarenghi, Mr. Orf Quarenghi, a co-developer that created many different softwares, including a motion tracking software open source called Moccolo. With one C. So then I selected among my different projects another one which works in the same way, somehow. And it's still the big, this was the first time I was in an exhibition space in Rome. In this installation, inside a museum about the evolution of Homo sapiens, I had the possibility to add my installation. So imagine me, student, not really student because I was already tutor, no, but I was still a bit beginner, going to Palazzo delle Esposizioni to Rome, which is a very important place. In fact, near to this room there was another room made by a very famous studio, ... already at the time, and I was working with Limited Zero, a studio from Milano, who did a concept about these four figures, the chimpanzee, the Australopithecus, the Neanderthal, and the Homo sapiens. And the installation was about showing the different way of walking. No? So the idea was, I go back 2 slides, that you place your hand on the bar, on the lighting bar, and somebody will appear in front of you randomly. And then when you walk with your hand on the bar, it will follow you. And super simple somehow, but for me it was a challenge. Every time new project, new challenge. Again, I skip, Palazzo delle Esposizioni Rome, sorry for that, beautiful. TouchDesigner 077, I think, because a little bit of music. So you move your hand. This was the debugging phase. So imagine how stressed I was. You can see when I touch my face, I stress. That's the, you can see, look. Oh, shit. Oh. Okay, I don't know how to use a presentation. Good. No. I just wanted to show the parameters. It's okay. The parameter interface were kind of different. Big squares, but it's okay. So when to, first of all, now you walk, but the chimpanzee walk at its own speed, or each character has to walk on its own speed. So the character will reach you. It's not going at your same speed. That's something I learned on site. Because, and then the client, which in this case, fortunately, was a design studio, so they went easy with the, you know, can you do this? Can you add that? Can you add that? They wanted to create a logic that when 2 different characters were meeting up, a little bubble was appearing, and yes, I did it. But it's not always good to do implementation during a setup. But that was my first time. So now when they ask me to do an implementation during the setup, I usually say, no, I'm sorry. And if they don't understand, I show a meme, which I will show you later. So this was Sergio Napolitano, the President of the Republic. And it was at the opening, so I was really, really happy. I couldn't take a picture in front, even if I was the developer of but a lot of people were around, security and so on. But I sent this to my mom because, you know, mom always very happy when sees president from behind. My son is... Okay, and then the main project I put today is tra parentesi. Unfortunately, it's for a brand, but because I work with a lot of brands. But Floss is a beautiful brand. They do design since ages. And I worked with Patrizia Orchiola. So the three factors that were like, this probably was the high peak, that poetry that you cannot really have when you work for Sky Arte or for Netflix. No, you cannot really have that poetry. Some brands maybe you can try. And this probably was one of the beautiful project, brand-oriented, for three factors. First of all, exhibiting in Triennale, it's wow, it's really like only Archistar or designers with a very good name that can do that. In fact, I was working with Patrizia Orchiola, and she was the concept designer for this exhibition. The second factor is Achille Castiglioni. That exhibition was the 100 year from the birth of Achille Castiglioni, who is this amazing designer and real maestro from the 60s. He designed a lot of beautiful Italian products, and as we are in Italy with the Node Institute, somebody will be following this on YouTube. It's good to see some good Italian design from the 60s, 70s, and so on. And Triennale Museum, yeah, I was mentioning that it's a beautiful space. So this on the left is the museum. On the right, these are some of the rooms of this exhibition, which was curated by Patrizia Orchiola and Federica Sala, another curator. Very big museum, very big exhibition on 2 floors, and very bright. No? So the sun was entering from all the windows and so on, and blah, blah, blah. And so I was doing a work of one room that was the break room between the ground floor and the first floor. And it had to be dark experience, no? So that your eyes could adapt again. You see him. He works a lot with light. Beautiful designer. He was inviting the orchestra from the elementary school, from the primary school, the kindergarten school, for the opening of his exhibitions. So he was very ironic, not only a product designer, but also he was designing his products, thinking, and he designed a lot of lamps, of course, but even a radio, Brion Vega, beautiful. But he was designing everything also with a particular attention to the sound of the product. So when you click to turn on the light of a Parentesi or of any floss product of Castiglioni, he was designing the sound of the click. So it was not just choosing an interrupter. He was thinking about this, and he's a product. Beautiful person, beautiful philosophy. And so we chose, together with Patrizia, the most iconic product of Castiglioni, which is Parentesi, this light that every Milanese designer has in its own house. If they have one, it means they are a cheap designer. If they have 3, they're okay. Because they are supposed to be in a group. And so this is the iconic, and we did one room with 100 candles. So the problem is that when I went to talk with the president of Floss at the time, Piero Gandini, he told me, I give you 100 lamp, but you don't touch them, you don't cut any wire, no hacking on my lamp. Okay, so sorry. So I had to buy 30, no, how many? 100 divided by 4, 25 of this JB System DSP4, which are basically power plugs that you can control via DMX. So you can control the intensity of each light from the power plug. $300 each. But at least I didn't cut any. I mean, if you think one parenthesis cost 350, by 4 is already a good deal, no? Because then they use the parentheses in their showroom, so it's not that they throw them away after the exhibition. Everything controlled by the little NTEC, DMX to USB. And so, very happy, I go with my power plug and NTEC and laptop to Brescia, to Floss, and I discover the beauty of design and production. These are the laboratories where they, when they prototype the lamps. These are like some of the first tests with the lamps placed there. So very briefly, I go faster. This is my house. This was my house. It's on rent in Milan. It's a beautiful couple. Riccardo, my friend, who was coming to visit me pretty often because he was teaching also in Milan. He knows this house very well. A lot of things are happening usually when I receive, when you receive stuff and you have 40 meters square to do your prototype at home, like Andrea was showing his first studio. So these were the first tests I was doing, using only chops for that project. And so these lights are all different light bulbs. Even if they look the same, they were all different. So I was just testing the dimmering and the speed and the velocity. So now, the dimmering and the speed, the velocity to have beauty. So, next, you study. This was my little room with all the pictures, the DMX map. Because I wanted to create different effects, so the light moving around so the idea was to create a forest of this light. I don't know if that was clear. A forest of this light that was supposed to be dark, and then when you enter, there are proximity sensors detecting people that are walking inside or like moving around. And these proximity sensors, which are visible here, this was on site. So the nice part, the relaxing part, was at home, where everything was working well, and I was sending demos to Patrizia Orchiola. She was really happy. And then the stressful part in Triennale, because you have a lot of people working on top of each other, short cable that you use at home with Arduino, they become 10 meters cable, and the signal is like, the data is arriving are a bit laggy. But then you work, and you arrive. This was nice. There is a bit of TouchDesigner here, as you can see. It's made with Google Slide. So this was the rack with the 25 DSP4, which they still have. I would like. And then the Arduino box. This was my lunch box, probably. Or Riccardo's lunchbox, we don't know. With the Arduino inside, receiving all the proximity sensors from the room, and sending it via USB to the computer. A very small computer, I believe, because it was just managing DMX. And that was the room. With all the lights on, obviously this photo was with all the lights on. That was me drinking, I should drink. And it's almost finished, I swear. So, and then the next slide is the video of this installation. I don't know if it's made by K48 production. K48 are from Milan, competitors of RKH. They have a magazine, C41 magazine, competitors of their magazine, but I'm sure that they would love them. So this is the video.
mostra celebra il centenario della nascita di Achille Castiglioni, una festa di 100 parentesi che come 100 cantelline si attivano alla presenza del visitatore. E a un certo punto tac sbatte. Saranno quindi il verso di una civetta, il rumore di un'accensione di un interruttore o i suoni del rimbalzo di una pallina di ping pong a dare un voce al gioco di luci.
Importante sempre la pellicola, è importante il sonoro delle cose. Il vetro, una gomma, il ferro, la ceramica.
No, Maria.
Ready?
Buon compleanno, Achille.
Yes, and the sound were made by Emilio Pozzolini, sound designer, ex Casino Royale, friend from Genova. That's it. This was my presentation, and this is my Instagram as usual. If you want to see some other projects that I don't do, actually, like the project I did with the lights, I love it because when you can create something with something beautiful, maybe in the video was not very beautiful because it was very difficult to shot the video in that dark space. So they tried everything. They also used the smoke machine at a certain point. No, and then Patricia arrived and said, "What the fuck, smoke inside? No, no, no." But they tried to shot a good video. It's a good video, but the experience itself was more beautiful because it was more dark. And if you can make magic with light, it's beautiful because, I mean, it's easy. This is now. So if you scroll, you have other stuff like, for example, this is in an ONG in New Delhi. And I was going there with these street kids playing notes with their head. Short story, I was in New Delhi for visiting Elsa's parents, and we went with her mom, who was in this ONG for these kids that are taken from the streets to be then in a school. So I went there, I observed day one, and I was looking them. They were jumping everywhere because they are kind of recluded, no? It's like a prison school. They cannot really go out, so they were just jumping around all the time. So I went back home. I thought about two simple things to do, and they had a television, one television. So I went back with these two games, and I spent an entire afternoon with them playing with, with this, and which is notes, 5 notes that are triggering different instruments, and they were doing by turn of 2. They were playing, and they really liked it, until the smartest guy started to do it by hand. No, with your head. So you can find other experiments, students project, Arduino mixed with TouchDesigner, with blah blah blah, for brands. Again, this was for, vabbè, basta. I leave you with a beautiful quote from Alan Cooper. Never forget Alan Cooper. Interaction design, because I'm an interaction designer, I'm not, so I like a lot interaction design, is about designing interactive digital products, environment, systems, and services. So like many other disciplines of design, interaction design, of course, is concerned with form and beautiness, no? Everything has to be beautiful. But, however, first and foremost, iDesign focuses on the design of behavior, which I love, because I really love to to observe people behavior and think about if a technology could change their behavior in that moment, like piano stairs. Okay, finished.
Thank you very much, Nima. I think there was a good portion of poetry in there. And the brands were there, so nobody can complain this time.
Send it to Mautic.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when you talk about interaction design, because I was also working a while for a designer who had also studied interaction design in Italy, and now that everybody who is not in that field kind of feels, yeah, talks about interactions. You need tech, you need tracking, you need da-da-da. But what I learned there is that you first of all just need to learn about how do people interact with rooms, with situations, with objects, and technology actually has nothing to do with it. It's just one more aspect to it. What would you really like to do as touch designer?
This type of things, I'll show you.
Skip past the advertising.
This type of stuff.
Okay, but we have to probably that's not stuff that you did, but that's stuff that inspires you.
Yeah, this is stuff that inspires me, like changing behavior of people with technology and simple solution. Yeah, like just a peer sensor connected to an audio file that changes people behavior in a park, in a garden. And so everybody starts to collect garbage and clean the park as a game to play. And that's obviously Sweden.
Obviously. Okay. Do we have any other questions for Nima that he can answer with a video he finds on YouTube?
I can answer also. I would like to do. I don't know. I would like to keep doing what I'm doing without having the stress of not having a next project in the next 3 months. That's the problem of the freelance, you know. It's a beautiful life, but at a certain point you're like, oh, where is the next project?
Yeah, and then there comes 3, which all have to happen within the same
exactly.
time frame.
And then you have 3 jobs at the same time, and or you stress a lot, or you choose to not do one, and then you're like, no, shit, I should have done it. So I would like to keep doing what I'm doing, learning at the same time, because pop's coming out, and so I have to. There's no more excuse. It's not GLSL. It's nodes. So I want to learn pops, of course. I kind of learned it a little bit, not deeply, but a little bit. I don't know, probably
I take that as an answer. I don't want to torture you.
Yeah, no, it's an answer. I would like to do the same thing I'm doing now, and probably have a studio with a desktop.
Okay, that's a very clear vector. So if you don't have any questions, there is a question.
Arianna.
Thank you.
Nima, you didn't show us the meme.
The meme? Oh, shit.
True.
Facebook.
It still exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is it?
The media archaeology.
That was me. Shit posting.
Also still exists.
Of course, it's the best page. Look at Nima, how active is
You're the only one
posting. Look. Where is the bananas? That's amazing. Freeze! Hold the chop. my next business. If somebody wants to participate, we should do Notch and TouchDesigner. Here, debugging 1 hour before the opening while the client asks for small changes. And so you wrap around and you do the small changes.
With this beautiful meme, I would say we end the talk session because we have another highlight coming in the upper room. I failed to describe it better, but RKH uniform people are going to guide the way. There is going to be a live performance. The format is called Orizzontale. I cannot say too much about it, but it's going to be exciting, and it's going to be a highlight within our otherwise very lame social breaks. So this is coming up. And with that, I would like to thank everybody who was here. Thank you for coming, for joining us here in Torino. Thank you for RKH and Gamma Music Institute to invite us and to make this possible. And yeah, I'm very happy to see you all here, and I hope you keep exchanging, and we have a little nucleus glowing here in northern Italy that we can exchange with. Thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye-bye.